Yeah, all right, thank you, Jill. Um, so yeah, this is a presentation about improvisation. My name is Nick Mueller. I'm a graduate student in English and senior writing mentor, which is a kind of course embedded teaching assistant at Arizona State University's The Writer's Studio. The Writer's Studio offers first-year composition courses like English 101, 102, and 105 to students who attend ASU online. Like myself, I was once an English 105 student. Today, I'm going to talk with you about remote student writing conferences and improv. How, you might ask, did I bring these two things together? In the early days of supporting first-year writing students as a regular writing mentor a year or so ago, I found myself asking what many new employees, whichever job they're working at, ask themselves, is what I'm doing working at all? Which is kind of a depressing question to ask oneself, and it's not so effective. After that, a little bit of sulking, I narrowed down the question to more specific areas like feedback, supplemental resources I created for students, and of course, that most dreaded area for introverted, non-photogenic individuals, Zoom conferences with students. So the answers that then floated into mind were far more pleasing and a lot less depressing. I did indeed have some idea what I was doing. But at first I wasn't sure why when it came to Zoom conferences. I wasn't experiencing the awkward stops and silences that other people who had been hired around the same time as me had seemed to experience. And so I reflected on that a bit, and I found that after some days, I'm really still the great big ham I was back in elementary school when I took an improv course as part of a after-school program. And I saw that in Zoom conferences with students, instructors, and administrators. I applied the yes and lessons I learned all those years ago. And doing so helped to lower the threshold for student interaction. And I won over instructors I interacted with. I made my faculty head and associate dean almost squirt coffee from their noses. And if you need further evidence that improv works in remote video conferences with folks, I don't know what I can do for you. I'm going to scroll down the list real quick to make sure. Okay, everyone's still in. All right, great. So I did the thing, I keep doing the thing, and now I want to begin a conversation with you all about how to formalize the silliness, how to lighten our load and that of students when we meet with them through Google Meet or Hopin or Zoom or whichever app you might choose to name. And of course, all of you have asked yourself, why does this guy have a clip of Jackie Chan and Conan O'Brien on a screen during a serious academic presentation? Well, it's a lot easier to show than it is to tell sometimes. And improv is definitely one of those things. So I want you to watch this clip with a couple things in mind. What is Conan saying yes to, and how is he doing it? So, and what constitutes yes, and what constitutes and I want you to hold that in your mind for this after this short clip. So we're going to go to 1 minute 47 seconds in. Can you all hear this okay? Anyone? Abby, were you able to hear the audio? No, okay, I think I might have to. Let me say. Sorry about. I know we don't have. Can you hear that? Simple little room with an incredible panoramic view of New York, but could you maybe show a stunt that maybe you do in a movie? Can we work something out right now? Table. Yeah, table. Yeah, clear this off. Yes. Okay. All right. Me go away. Okay. Okay, that chair there. Anybody have a pillow? Yeah, pillow. Okay. Pretend this is a weapon. Weapon. This is a death pillow. Okay.
Hit me what? Wait a minute. Oh, what am I doing? Hit me what? Okay, this would be a bad movie, by the way. No, it's a good movie. If a guy came at you with this. What? Okay, I hit one like that. Okay. Then I hit the table. Then I hit the table. Yeah. Okay. Throw it. And it becomes a ninja star, and I throw it. Okay. Yes, that's the scene. Okay, let me get in my character right here. Okay. You're the director. I'm the director. Get ready. I'll say action. Yes. All right.
All right, can you all hear me again, Abby? Okay, cool. All right, and I know some of you are getting paid to be here, so yes, you're welcome. All right, now again, I'll pose the questions. How is Conan O'Brien saying yes? How is he saying and? Okay. Now we're going to get into the next part of our presentation, which is an actual Prezi presentation. So the problem and the solution, Italo Calvino describes lightness as a value rather than defect in his 6 memos for the new millennium. My argument to you is that the lightness of improvisation can lower the threshold for interaction in writing conferences with students. And I'll give you a little bit more background on the 6 memos for the new millennium. And it's basically 5 talks the author Italo Calvino gave toward the end of his life. He only finished 5 of them. The first one, I think, is about lightness. And he talks about lightness in relation to heaviness, into the seriousness we can find in literature. And I think I thought of that seriousness of literature in terms of the seriousness with which many students approach writing and with which many instructors approach writing. So I think that lightness, along with Calvino, is a value rather than a defect. And when we think of writing and writing conferences with students online in terms of lightness, I think we can begin to get away from the stress and anxiety that can come with writing, that can come with being in a Zoom conference. Because sharing our writing means making ourselves vulnerable because we write about what we care about. I mean, sometimes we do have to write about things we don't care about, but like we all do, we can't help ourselves. All the writing we do is autobiographical, right? Like we can write the grocery list and the grocery list somehow reflects us. So there's no getting around it. And when it comes to first year writing in particular, and that's the audience of students I work with, when it comes to those first year writing students, so many of them have had very negative experiences in their pre-college writing courses. Those experiences then manifest as stress over their present college writing assignments. They have that, paper covered in red at the back of their mind, that, the Google document with all sorts of things crossed out, highlighted, what have you. And it's no surprise that the psychological literature in general on stress and anxiety is reflected in the literature about college students in particular. College students report being more stressed out than before and report stress as the #1 obstacle to their academic success. And in using improv and being more mindful about our practice with students and remote writing conferences, we can begin to counteract these trends by applying improv. Okay. And we're going over to improv in business now. Why business? Well, we're beginning here because the study of improv in remote student writing conferences is actually an open area of research. I did a lot of research myself, and I consulted research librarians, I consulted some other first-year composition educators, and it's not really something that's been explored a lot. However, in the business world, like books and articles have been written about improv, and that's because there are a lot of benefits to using improv. according to the MIT Sloan Management Review, in an article, a study by Conforto, Viventish, and Amadal, improv applied in business can help people maintain focus, flexibility, and adapt to change. We have every reason to believe that improv can offer similar benefits to students and educators in remote writing conferences. So think about, focus, flexibility, adapt to change. I think those are all things we want to do as students, we want to do as educators, we want to do as writers, and we want to foster those things in our students as much as possible. So I think improv is a natural fit, and to get into a little first year composition lingo, it's a natural thing to transfer, to use that transfer aspect of metacognition to bring over to our students and our own practices. Let me see. And again, all right. So there are so many benefits to reducing excess stress and better mental health, better immune system health, better heart health, and so on. And I chose these more accessible articles on the topic because so much of the language in more academic, more scholarly articles can be less than accessible for folks who don't have that kind of background. And I believe, let me see, I want to make sure that I pasted for anyone who wants to follow the Prezi afterward. I know that we had some late arrivals. If you want to explore these links afterwards, I'm putting it in the chat now along with my contact information. All right, resuming the presentation. So there are a lot of benefits to applying improvisation in business. We have every reason to believe those benefits will transfer to our practices with students in online writing conferences. So what do? We say yes. We all want to be that teacher who encourages student exploration. And what about encouraging our own exploration of how we teach, how we meet students writing where it is in online writing conferences? And we say yes. And of course, that begs the question, what does yes mean? In my opinion, and I feel like many of you will agree, yes means affirming a student's agency. It means affirming their background, acknowledging their struggles, their version of English, their topic of choice, their style of argumentation or writing, their willingness to experiment with multimodality or medium or genre and more. Yes means possibility and exploration. Yes means confidence for students in their writing efforts well beyond our time with them. So what do you all do when you say yes? I'm going to give you a little time here to respond to that. I'm going to count to not to respond to it, but to think, to write something down to share after the presentation itself. So I'm going to hang out for 30 seconds if you want to jot something down, or just run and get a snack. You can do whichever you want. All right, does anyone need a little more time? Anyone? Okay. Going to resume. So we covered yes in very brief manner. So the next question is, what does and mean? And it's really hard to talk about improv. It's so much easier to show it or do it than it is to talk about it. So I'm just giving some very general cursory examples. So what do we do when we and? We can approach and in a very technical, practical way, and we can look to what's next in a logical sequence of what a student's written. You can kind of project the trajectory based on what's come before and help them, act as their guide to bring out what they have to say. If we see claims made, and could be a discussion of evidence and the forms evidence can take. And can be, I have a cat too, if our student's cat makes a cameo on Zoom. And Abby, my coworker, knows that that happens a fair amount. So my next question is, what is "and" for you? In your remote student writing conferences, do you have any go-to "ands" like those described a moment ago? I'll be a little more specific here in my question posing. Like I go to, a lot of my students are, they're LGBTQ plus people. They come from, they're disabled in some way. They live with chronic illness. I got distracted by chat. They live with a chronic illness and they're non-traditional students like me. They've returned to school after many years, and they've had some adverse experiences either in high school or their first go around in college. And I go to, I've got these little clips, if you will, these little YouTube clips of words and stories that I can relate. And it's like, and for me, I'm going to draw this bizarre parallel there. Those little stories, those snippets, those clips that I can share with students to acknowledge their experience and validate it in the moment. Those are the chair in the Conan skit. Those are the desk in the Conan skit. Those are the pillow in the Conan skit. So, a lot of what comes from improv in the moment, it also comes from recognizing the sort of, the props we have in the background of our, the stuff we already have available to work with. So yeah, take 30 seconds or so and write one or two of those go-to "ands" if you'd like to share them later. And I'm going to read chat while you do that. All right. I love all the engagement in the chat. So thank you all, Patricia and Abby and Kendra and Jill and on and on and on. I really like what I'm seeing. Thank you for making this a conversation rather than Nick's monologue. Okay. Minimize chat. All right. Got a latecomer. So that brings us near to the end of our lovely presentation. Next steps. And this isn't a closed, done and over kind of presentation. It's intended more of a conversation starter, if you couldn't tell. So some more questions for you, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of great questions of your own to pose as we continue the conversation. How do improv and mindfulness, I think I hinted at it earlier, how do improv and mindfulness connect in student writing conferences? How does being in the moment through improv help us respect student agency and go away from monologic teaching toward a dialogue? And what specific improv exercises would be a good introduction for writing tutors or even practiced, well-established faculty? So yeah, that is the extent of the presentation I had for you. I'm sorry I ran a little over my projected 15 minutes. If anyone wants to wants to stay and talk about the presentation or the reflection I began the presentation with, you're more than welcome to do that. I would love that, or just to continue, what's the things folks have mentioned in chat. If you can't stay or you just need to go, I'm going to drop my contact information and the Prezi link into the chat, so you can copy and paste that and go as you would, go in good health, as they say. So yeah, is anyone who wants to stay want to start things off? I'm seeing like embarrassment of riches in here. So okay, Abby has like an improv exercise. Do you want to talk about that, Abby?
Yes.
Oh yeah, your voice
in the chat, because as you can hear,
oh
my
yeah,
voice
do it
is
in chat
shot.
because your voice is out. I didn't mean to do that to you.
Okay.
Oh yeah, so I think that would be a fun, okay, you're talking at a picnic, with your friend, and then the person supervising or overseeing the improv might say, all right, you just gotta sing an action movie, right? Okay, you now you're over at a horse race. Okay, now you're at a basketball game. Okay, now you're with a student, right? That sound about right, Abby? Yeah, Patricia, I think, and I can explore a lot more of what folks over in the business world have drawn upon for so there's a deep well there. There's whole books written about improv in business. So Dr. Kendra says, I usually burst into singing or acting in a conference. Okay. That will definitely lighten the mood. Yeah, I am also not afraid to embarrass myself. And that comes with, I think, I mentioned those stories a little while ago that, that we each probably have from our backgrounds, from our identities, from life experiences that we feel comfortable going to. And yes, they might be embarrassing if they happen to someone else, but for us, we've interrogated them, we've gone over them, we've reached a comfortable place with them. We can, share that vulnerability with students, and in my experience, when we're authentic with students, when we're vulnerable with them, they return the favor. Okay, I'm going to go a little earlier in the chat. So, okay, and very cool, very cool. A gift. So a gift, and I see a gift and giving more. I think someone has said, Jill has said, saying yes means you're acknowledging and accepting, not challenging. I really like that. Like there's no judgment in yes, right? I'm here, I'm listening, and tell me more. Okay. And okay. Got 3 new messages in chat. All right. So if anyone wants to actually talk, like I don't have to be the only one talking, you're more than welcome to.
So Nicholas.
Yeah, who's this?
This is Patricia.
Oh, hi there.
And so I guess one of my questions, so I've tried to use improv back when we were in person, and now we're almost completely online. I'm really interested in what kind of improv activities, might be especially workable in Zoom meetings, since we're not really back in person yet. I have tried, I took a Zoom class, improv Zoom class, and it was wonderful, but I was exhausted afterwards.
Yeah, it's a workload, isn't it? Like you have to be really attentive in order to be in the moment, right?
Yeah, also just logistically, I mean, I like the kind of games where we all get in a circle and we, those sorts of games those kind of introductory things seem to be most useful for consultants who are not themselves, improv actors. But,
right.
I'm not going to make them be them. But it is a little tougher to do that in Zoom. And I'm just I'm always wanting to collect activities and maybe get back to that.
I think, one thing I like to do, just whether I'm teaching, whether I'm at a conference with a student or whether I'm just out and about with friends, is like I'll just make use of whatever's around me, just like in that Jackie Chan or Conan clip. So I think, I just turn into the Gallagher. I turn into that prop comedian from the 90s, and I'm like, oh, look at this, it's just something else now. And and like I mentioned earlier, not afraid to make a fool of myself and turn wine into water. So I think everyone's got stuff on their desk, right? We've all got junk on our desk, and we could go from there. Like, what's something on your desk that your coworkers would not guess that would be there? And like that could be a great place to start. What is Studio C? Okay, I'm gonna have to look at Studio C. And Patricia, you mentioned some, I think you've done some improv course, I think with some business folks as well. Is that right?
No, I'm in New Mexico, and I have taken improv classes at a local improv theater, the Box.
Okay, I must have misheard. Did you mention something about doing improv with some of those folks who were in business, or is that something?
No, I mean, some of my teachers who have gone and made some money by doing the business route and doing whatever for them, but I have not done the business thing myself.
Gotcha. Well, another plus of drawing from the business arena for our sake and for our students' sake is that in business, it's got to be safe. You can't offend anyone. So it's going to be something that transfers pretty well to the academic arena, because we have our charters of compassion, we have our standards of conduct for our respective departments. So I think taking some of the safer exercises that business folks have utilized would be a great way to go. So I would definitely like to explore, like what you mentioned, what the improv artists are serving up to their business clientele. And then who was it that mentioned working at a HBCU? Oh, what's your name? Sorry.
It's Kendra.
Kendra. Hi there.
Hey.
So what did you say about, I'm trying to scroll back in the chat to what you mentioned.
Well, so like I draw on all of, I'm not actively tutoring. I mentor the tutors there, and so and the director is new to the field, so I do a lot of the training. But in my just regular classrooms, I will draw on my creative side quite often, and if I feel like I need to perform it, which I use, because I use a lot of metaphors, and just to help them picture a space that is not really familiar to them. So a lot of them have been told to do things without given the background or a deeper understanding. So, I use a lot of metaphors. And so I act out a lot of scenes and, a lot of snickers and all that, I'll sing. I used, I think I was teaching my technical report writing course one summer, and I was talking about Negro spirituals as a form of technical communication. And and then I sang one, and they're like, "What? What just happened here?" And so, and if I feel like I need to actually do a scene or get in their face and like, "Wow," and they're like, "Oh, okay." Not so much in these pandemic days, but but I keep my distance because we are in person. We've been in person, required everybody, mostly at least, since fall. So, but I do occasionally, like I'll have some Zoom experiences, but I actually, enjoyed working with my students on Zoom. It required a different kind of creative joke because I use humor a lot. yeah, it was just using the technology as an appendage to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hearing, well, first of all, I think I should go work with you and we cause way too much trouble together. Second, I'm hearing that you're using a lot of like cross-genre work, like going from technical communications to Negro spiritual over to theater. So I think that's another great thing that improv offers. It's very freeing. So students don't have to think of writing as the 5-paragraph essay or writing only with correctness in mind. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I was just saying, absolutely. I'm a firm believer in that. Yeah. Yeah. And I actually attribute I was a tutor before I was a teacher. And so that kind of freedom, I draw a lot on my tutoring experiences that shaped that kind of freedom and those kind of instant curricula, like you have to have a mini lesson plan, each time for any version of the person you get, right? You're not really just kind of dealing with a set group, and you have the ability to, almost the expectation to be flexible. At least that was my experience in order for them to be motivated or to maintain motivation. And so I would draw from my bag of tricks in order to do whatever needed to be done to get them, not necessarily happy, but productive. And whatever that productivity looks like for them that day is what the goal was. And so it's stuck with me all these years. And, and so my students, they laugh, I even pull on TikTok, I'll do a meme in a heartbeat and I'll do it poorly on purpose so that they can judge me. And then we're all on the same page. And now you can listen to me. Great. Okay. Fantastic. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, that speaks to my experience as a tutor and educator. Like as a student worker, there are lower stakes. And I think improv helps unite us. And, the silliness that can arise in lower stake situation. I think, demonstrating that we share some common ridiculousness as human beings can go a long way with our students, because we all felt kind of ridiculous at some point or other as students, I believe. So let's see. Danielle says, I think Danielle and Patricia both talk about role playing and like the more practical side of improv maybe. I think there's definitely a practical side in addition to the silly side. Okay.
Although when we role play saying no to your supervisor or self-advocacy, we do get a little silly about it as well, but it's a serious point that, if we ask you to work at 3 a.m. on a Saturday, you can just say no. But also we're giving them permission to say no to other more theoretically reasonable things we might ask.
Like, sorry, no, I can't come into the office. I'm feeling too well because I've decided to become a full-time stuffed animal collector and cosplayer. I'm going to be a unicorn on that afternoon, so I'm not going to be able to make my shift. So like something like that. All right. So did I miss anyone's comment? Does anyone feel like I missed their comment in chat? Anyone else want to bring up something that was not covered in chat or that I mentioned in the presentation, perhaps?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Jill.
I'm kind of wondering with students who really seem maybe not so open to silliness and laughing and this kind of stuff, but who we feel really could use a little dose of that. Like, what are some effective strategies for kind of cracking the door open and lightening the mood a little bit without offending them or making them feel like you're just not taking them seriously?
Right.
Does anybody have any ideas?
I'm going to leave that up to you all.
Well, so what I can say is that I follow their lead, right? So I build their trust. So first, if I test the water and I'm like, ooh, joke didn't go so well. So then I go right into it, and then they get a little dose of my personality, right? And usually what happens, because I kind of major in the quote unquote difficult session. I was the person that I worked at my current institution is where I earned my bachelor's degree. And so I started tutoring there. And then when I went to my graduate program, which was a PWI, I kind of had a reputation already for like the person who handles difficult sessions, like whatever it is, right? And it was because I was really good at connecting with the moment. It was basically coming down to being present with them and kind of hearing maybe what was going on behind the scenes. So you're serious right now because you got a lot riding on this. So I might ask, like, man, this seems like it's a very important thing to you. Can you tell me a little bit about, why this is important to you? And I promise it has something to do with the session. I promise, like I let them know I'm not wasting their time. And we'll get to it. And I make good on that promise. But then they see that, she's actually in earnest trying to help me. And then they start loosening up. It may not be a whole laugh, but it might be a crack of a face, right? I'm like, and I'll wait till we get our job done, and I'll just call them on. It's like, well, I don't know. You keep coming around, you might actually have a whole smile, And it's like you kind of fooling me. You may make me think that you actually like me. I'm not sure. And so I find opportunities to kind of give those bursts, but I definitely choose their trust over the humor or over whatever my methodology is. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that made a lot of sense to me. I think, I definitely have had plenty of writing conferences, plenty of workshops with students, and even some instructors who were a little reticent, and yet, not with all of them necessarily, but I felt like they could see or feel the authenticity that I was giving out. They could, like Dr. Kendra said, like they could get a sense of that I was open to what they had to say, even if they weren't quite feeling like they could be 100% open just yet. And that there's a stepwise progression toward building trust. And some people, choose for whatever reasons that trust is earned much more than it's given. And that's part of, in my opinion, of meeting student authors where they are, is respecting what they trust and what they don't. Does anyone else want to build onto that, or? Okay, well, we're nearing 3 o'clock. So I hope you'll all, or at least some of you, will reach out to me, especially Dr. Kendra. I feel like we have a lot in common. And it's been wonderful having all of you. Thank you for attending. I'm very grateful to have an audience, great big ham that I am. And again, if you look back in the chat, you'll see links to LinkedIn, to the Prezi I showed you. And if you want to continue the conversation, by all means, email me. Thank you, and have a great rest of your weekend, all right?